Hey guys, my name is Matthew, and this is my review of Will Smith's new memoir called Will. Here we go. In this review, I'm going to just list some of my observations of the memoir. I'm going to start with some of my favorite things about it, go on through the memoir to a couple things I didn't like as much, and at the end of this review, I'll give my recommendation for who should buy the book. Let's get into it. First, I want to say I really appreciated Will's emotional rawness or realness that was evident throughout the book. Of course, in any memoir, it's a story, and it's a story told by the person from their point of view. So there's embellishment, and there's forgetting, and there's whatever. So I'm not going to suggest that every part of this book was 100% authentic to the way that it actually happened and the way that he spells out kind of his story of his life. But emotionally, I feel like there was a realness to it. There was a level of emotional authenticity that was there, and even when the story may have been manipulated in some way, which is the way that everyone writes any memoir, I appreciated that there was a sense that his emotions were real, and I really I think he did that in a way that was better than or different than most memoirs that I read. The memoir, I think it did its primary purpose, which is I think you're meant to get a glimpse into someone else's life. And I really appreciate that this memoir did exactly that. I heard stories about Will, and I'm not like a huge Will Smith fan. I like him, and I've enjoyed his work in the past. But I feel like I got to learn a bunch about him, which was cool. The way his upbringing and the characters that were most influential for him, and about his mom and his dad and his Gigi's grandma, and I just really appreciated kind of getting to jump into and learn more about his story, learn more about his current family events as well, and things that are going on with that. So the glimpse into his life, I feel like it just did a great job at that. One thing that I think will be a little controversial about this memoir is the way that Will presents two conflicting images of himself. Right? The first one is the Will Smith that we know, which is this like bravado and like, oh, I'm an Emmy Award winner and I've starred in X number of movies and I'm super rich and all these kind of things. And those things are true, right? That is who Will Smith is. And he also presents this other side to himself. It's like he's trying to present this other side that's like emotionally available and like, hey, this is who I am, and I'm a coward. That's kind of his word. That's a reoccurring theme. Is his cowardice in the way that's kind of laid out throughout his life. And then, like I said, he goes back and presents the other side again, like, hey, but I am the superstar. He constantly is kind of, talking about the way that he gave to charity by skydiving over the Grand Canyon. And it's like, okay, well, that's great, I guess. But it feels like there's these two conflicting images of Will Smith. And I actually appreciate that that's the way that it was presented, because I think there's a realness to that as well. And I think that's a little controversial. I think people will not appreciate that. They'll be like, oh, it feels like I'm getting a fake Will Smith that he wants to tell us about. And that's true to some degree. That's the way a memoir works, is you are getting a fake version of someone, the version that they want us to hear about. But I think he actually did a good job of showing those two different sides, that, yeah, he is a superstar, and he also has all these imperfections and weaknesses as well. I actually think he does a pretty good job of showing us that with some other complexities as well. For instance, he says that his dad was the person he looked up to the most, but also his dad was this horrible drunk who did dumb things and hit his mom. One of these kind of events that he says is one of the biggest events that kind of changed his life. And so, I don't know, I think the complexities of life in general, Will does a good job of presenting those, not only for himself and the issues that are butting up against each other for his own personality and things, but also for real life issues as well. I appreciated also that the book runs kind of a whole gambit of emotions in general. There are times that I laughed, there are times when, obviously he presents issues of abuse and neglect and things like that, so you're sad around those things. And I just think he runs through kind of this whole gambit of emotions. I appreciated that. There's a lot you can feel as you're pursuing and reading through the book. I also really appreciated the themes of fear and cowardice and early childhood trauma that are relevant throughout the book. I just thought they were interesting, the way that he incorporated some of those. A couple things I didn't appreciate as much about this book. The first one is that I actually wasn't very compelled by the story or the linking together of parts of this memoir. I didn't feel like it wasn't something that held my attention. It wasn't, some books you read and you're like, oh, I don't want to put it down. This was a book that was like, I can put it down. I appreciated the Will Smith stories, and I loved kind of hearing more about him, but the writing style itself was not captivating. It was well written, it was fine, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't everything I was hoping for and more. And I feel like part of the issue is the second big thing that I didn't enjoy so much about the book was some of the ways that the book felt like it was written in a very calculated way, especially when it came to it almost seemed like he was writing in a way that he could kind of offer it as self-help, like, hey, I want to help you out with these platitudes and these, kind of, I don't know, and it felt like that was very calculated. Everything that had to do with self-help or trying to teach you a life lesson from his life, all of those pieces felt like they were, I don't know how to say it, they calculated. They weren't authentic the way that some of his other pieces are, or were in the book. And so that felt like a kind of a downer for me just a little bit. Every time he came to a self-help, he's like, and that's why you need to do this. I was like, oh, okay, sure, I get that. And I'm sure some people will really get a lot out of that, but for me, those parts of it, they felt less like Will and more like someone ghostwriting and helping him with that part of the book. And I don't know, maybe they were all Will, but they felt like they weren't. Now, before I give my recommendation for this book, I do just want to point to the description below where I have a link that you can go to Amazon and purchase this book. It wouldn't cost you any extra if you did use that link, but it does help our channel out a lot. So if you're thinking about buying it, we'd appreciate it if you use that link. Now, for my recommendation, it's an easy recommendation. If you like Will Smith, if you enjoy him, if you would like to learn more about his life and especially kind of the emotional side of some of the things that have gone on in his life, this is a no-brainer. Pick it up, you'll enjoy it. It might take you a little bit to get through. This is one of those books that you can read a chapter out of, set it down, and come back a couple weeks later if you needed to. But overall, it was a really enjoyable read for someone who enjoys Will Smith and was interested in learning more about him. The easy contrary side to that is, if you don't care about Will Smith, you don't care about learning more about him, don't pick this book up. No-brainer. It's a pretty easy one. Easy recommendation. If you like Will Smith, you're gonna like this book. So that's been my review of Will by Will Smith. If you've enjoyed this review, please feel free to like and subscribe. We put out new content all the time surrounding book reviews, book-related content, and videos about reading. Thanks again for watching, guys, and as always, stay safe out there.